All right, well, once again, good afternoon, everybody. I'm meteorologist Chad Crilly. We have a new severe thunderstorm warning that has been issued in southwestern Imperial County. That's why we're jumping back on live. There's a couple of cells here that we're watching that have our attention. Notice the severe thunderstorm warning polygon itself has been drawn up for far southwestern Imperial County until 5 p.m. So the current time right now, of course, is 4:40, and the cell itself that's technically warned, you're noticing that there is a cluster of cells here, right? It's not just one, but there are two cells that we're watching. The cell in particular for now that the National Weather Service has warned on is this one here, north of Interstate 8, and they're advertising the possibility of a little bit of small hail in there, nickel-size hail possibility, but more so for the possibility of wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. So this is the cell that is currently severe warned. It's just to the west of Plaster City, and again, it is for winds to 60 miles per hour. However, you'll notice just to the south, there's actually a stronger storm that looks like it's developing. It has quite a few more lightning strikes. This one has just moved out of Baja, California. It's crossed over the border now. It's near Mount Signal Road and Coyote Road number 1. And this cell is intensified perhaps a little bit further than the initial cell up to the north. So at this point, I'm comfortable saying that both of these cells, we have number 1 up here, and then also our cell number 2 down here, are reaching severe criteria, which for right now is wind gusts to 60 miles per hour and some nickel-size hail. So I want to go ahead and check on, again, some of the criteria from the National Weather Service, because oftentimes in the chat they'll update some of the information just pertaining to the warnings themselves, because it looks like the hail size now is maybe come up just a little bit. So they're saying nickel size hail, so nickel-size hail within these storms, and then 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. The storms themselves are moving right now to the north at about 15 miles per hour. I would say this southern cell appears to be the more dominant one, and you can indicate that by looking at the deep purple and almost black contour that you're seeing there. That's likely some of that nickel size, if not a little bit larger hail that's falling. And then the cell up here to the north, likely the weaker cell, also severe warned. That one is just north of Coyote Wells at this point, probably finding some of the stronger wind gusts in here. So let's go ahead and do this. The first thing I want to do is put this into animation mode and show you a loop here over the past 15 minutes, and you can kind of see how these cells really quickly intensified. They're part of a larger complex of thunderstorms that is south of the border across Baja, California. They're quite electric there as well, but these two have kind of separated off on their own, and of course are producing their own weather hazards with the hail and the wind. And so again, they appear to be moving north, I would say, just by looking at the radar presentation, and as we put this kind of into animation mode right now, again, they say north at 15. I would almost say more northwest at about 15, but regardless, let's go ahead and put a track on this, and I have a feeling we're probably not going to get a ton of cities that are populated here on our track, just because this is a pretty sparsely populated area, but you could see out ahead here, there are certainly going to be some spots that are impacted out like Palm Grove and Mortorito Palms down the line as these storms track west at about 15 miles per hour. Definitely a hail core is starting to show up on this southern cell here that is near Anza Trail Road and Coyote number 1 Road. This is north of Mount Signal Road, and I know there aren't really any large cities or towns in this area, but regardless, it is in our coverage area, and it is a severe thunderstorm warning. Again, the main concern right now is going to be for the possibility of wind gusts to 60 miles per hour and a little nickel-size hail as these storms kind of drift to the north and northwest at about 15 miles per hour or so. And actually, it would appear as we look at the radar loop here over the past 15 minutes that these storms are almost trying to consolidate a little bit. Oftentimes when you have two different storms, right, we can call this storm number 1 up here and then storm number 2 down here. One of two things happen. Normally, one storm will steal the energy from the other storm, or they'll both kind of weaken because they're fighting over the same air mass. Or a third option is that the storms kind of merge together, and it looks like that's what's happening exactly over Coyote Wells right now. So Coyote Wells is probably the biggest population center right now that's going to be impacted by this severe storm. As a matter of fact, this is Interstate 8, and there's a lot of truckers out here and travelers who travel along Interstate 8 near Coyote Wells, near Ocotillo. And unfortunately, when you get these severe storms, there's so much dust out here that in addition to the wind, the rain, some of the hail, you often end up with really low visibility because of the dust that's being blown around. I want to show you our exclusive tool here. We call this our threat detector, and what the threat detector does, and if you've been with me through storm coverage throughout this afternoon, you already know about this, but basically it can look into the storm. It's an exclusive product that we have here at Chad Crilly Weather, and it can identify exactly what type of threat and hazard the storm has ongoing. So obviously you can see that there are two separate hail cores here, with our southern storm to the south of Coyote Wells and then another hail core to the north of Coyote Wells as well. Now the question is, how big are these hailstones that are falling? We can query that up as well. With the storm to the north of Coyote Wells, it looks like it is reaching that 1-inch mark for hail, which is severe criteria. And then for the cell to the south and southeast of Coyote Wells, also at about 1 inch. So hail is up to 1 inch at this point. I know the Weather Service was saying it was only nickel size. I can say with confidence it is bigger than that. It is 1-inch hail that's falling right now within this severe thunderstorm warning, with our cell to the north of Coyote Wells and then to the south of I-8 and Coyote Wells as well. Rainfall rates are also probably pretty heavy with this storm too. There's another look at reflectivity, and as mentioned, just within the past 15 minutes or so, we have these two cells that kind of went up. It was a northern cell that was severe warned initially, and then now the storms are kind of merging and conglomerating together a little bit, and sometimes that can create some unpredictable storm behavior. Let's go ahead and take a peek into the winds. I think we'll get a better idea of how fast and how strong some of these winds are blowing. The good news is we're using our Yuma radar site here. And the wonderful thing about the Yuma radar site when it pertains to Imperial County is it's very flat out there. So we're not having to change the tilt or anything like that. We can actually give you a very accurate depiction as to what's going on just above the surface with the wind. So let's query some of these. And north of Coyote Wells, we're getting some gusts there. 37 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour, a little closer to the surface. You could be getting some of those isolated gusts up to about 60 miles per hour. For the cell to the south, it doesn't look like the winds are quite as strong within this one, but still probably finding some gusts there, again, just above the surface, 20 to 25 miles per hour. If I were to pick, I would say it is this northern storm up here right now that probably has a little bit more wind to it. It is a little bit closer to reaching the severe criteria with those 60 mile per hour wind gusts. In fact, you can kind of almost denote an inflow notch here that is coming into the storm, which is, of course, warm, moist, rich air that is being fed into the storm. This is the inflow here, and normally on the back side of the inflow where you kind of start to see this tail or this hook, that's where you get a lot of the wind that develops. Now out in the plains, this would be a sign of possible rotation, but we are not concerned about that at all. So the cell to the south here, south of Interstate 8, definitely a heavy rainmaker, might have some hail. The cell to the north has the gusty winds and then also the hail. So I would say the stronger of the two cells at this point in time is going to be the one north of Coyote Wells up here that is moving again off towards the west at about 10 to 15 miles per hour, north to northwest. The Weather Service has it moving, kind of due west. I would say it's almost a little bit more north-northwest here. But let's put a track on this as it kind of moves out. Again, and I can expand this track. That's one of the things I can do behind the scenes. And again, you can see the general projection of where that storm is headed into a fairly sparsely populated part of eastern San Diego County. Now, both of these storms, as a matter of fact, are putting down a lot of rainfall. Let's check out the accumulation. Keep in mind, this is just over the past 15 minutes when these storms have gotten started. And you can already see, as we query some of this, that we've picked up nearly half of an inch of rain with the cell north of Coyote Wells. A little further south of Interstate 8 and south of Coyote Wells, already half of an inch of rainfall in the past 15 minutes. And so it doesn't take a lot necessarily to get flooding concerns or flash flooding concerns out here. I mean, these are big rainmakers, and these are big time thunderstorms as well that continue to pop up that we're watching. You know, some of the other cells that we've seen throughout the day today have been kind of small and compact. These are a little bit more widespread. Again, Coyote Wells is getting a lot of heavy rain at the moment. I would say for folks in Coyote Wells, it's about to get a lot worse. The rain's going to pick up in rate. You're going to start to get some of that wind, also the hail, possibly up to 1 inch in here. And again, the severe thunderstorm warning goes until 5 p.m. With these particular clusters of cells. And then you'll also notice in Baja, there's another strong thunderstorm that is going to try to drift here eventually into southeastern San Diego County. We'll be watching that one. Also of note, as we kind of continue on our radar tour here, are strong storms up near Ranchita and Borrego, also near Harrison Park. You had these cells that initially produced a special weather statement, and then those have kind of weakened a little, although there's probably still a bit of hail in there east of Julian. And a new cell that's popping up, this one here has my attention, that is just north of Mount Laguna. And keep in mind, these storms today have already kind of traversed and been over some of this landscape in this area. And so there could be some leftover boundaries, outflow boundaries, that these storms are kind of reigniting and lighting up upon. So yeah, this cell that just has come up in the past 5 minutes north of Mount Laguna is likely producing some very heavy rainfall. There could be a little bit of small hail in there. In fact, as we look at our threat detector, I love this product. You can see that it is depicting right now with the cell north of Mount Laguna, hail that is up to about half of an inch, so that's still below severe criteria. But considering the storm has just now started to organize and gain strength, that hail size could go up a little bit more. So we'll be keeping a close eye and a close tab on that one. But for the meantime, these are mean-looking storms out here in southwestern Imperial County with our severe thunderstorm warning that we have in place. Again, this is from the National Weather Service in Phoenix. And they're saying still no update on this other than winds to 60 miles per hour moving northwest at about 15 miles per hour, and some of the hail in there. I'm going to disagree with the National Weather Service and say, because we have this sort of exclusive tool here, the threat detector, and we're so close to the Yuma radar site, we can actually get a little bit better of a picture of the hail that's ongoing. So yeah, 1 inch hail for sure. I think with the cell near Coyote Wells, just south of Coyote Wells, south of Interstate 8, and then more 1 inch hail with the cell north of Interstate 8 as well. I want to try to zoom in a little bit closer to give you possibly some street names, some crossings. So obviously here is the community of Coyote Wells right here. Here's Ocotillo, and then this is Clark Lane, which runs south of Coyote Wells. And then of course, we can even get in tighter here and show you, here's Ocotillo Road, Palo Verde Road. And so these are some of the Sparks, Clark Lane, Cholo Road, that are seeing some of the larger hail at this point, the hail that is likely coming down 1 inch in diameter. In fact, this just ticked up with the latest scan. Now we're talking about 1.5 inches with hail, and that's the type of hail that's going to do damage, minor damage to things like cars. You may get a little bit of dents here and there in your car's windshield. So again, bigger picture shows us there are two very strong cells, severe cells here out in southwestern Imperial County until 5 p.m. You have both of them are looking pretty dominant, but I would say The storm now to the south of Coyote Wells, southeast of Ocotillo, is likely going to be a little bit stronger, and you can see even some of that black that's being picked up there on radar. That's going to be where we're finding that 1.5-inch size hail marker coming in there. And so that's the type of hail, again, that could do some damage to some of the cars out there, some small dents. Also, not to completely forget about the cell to the north here that is producing probably hail that is near 1 inch in size. This one is west of Plaster City. This is Painted Gorge Road, if you're familiar with the area at all. So running along Painted Gorge Road here in southwestern Imperial County, this is some very heavy rain, and then also some pockets of hail that's going to be up to 1 inch in diameter. And these storms continue to track and drift off to the west here at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. So there's a loop over the last 30 minutes, and you can see these storms are kind of consolidating a little bit more. And as they do so, they're pulsing up in strength. And so again, you still kind of see two distinct cells, one of them north of Interstate 8 up here, and then another one just over Coyote Wells. If I were in Coyote Wells right now, I would be getting ready for some really, really significant weather to roll on through. In fact, that hail core is about to punch through Coyote Wells at this point. So again, we're talking about Palo Verde Road, Meltier Road, Coyote Wells itself, Clark Lane, Cholla Road, Sage Road, Clark Lane, again, south of Coyote Wells. Definitely going to be getting in on some bigger hail here in the next couple of minutes. And so, again, we can plot this hail size out for you and tell you that at least coming up to Clark Lane and Muleteer Road and into Coyote Wells, we have hail that is up to about 1.5 inches right now that is about to run into town. So if I see any storm reports on this, I will absolutely let you know. But for right now, our threat detector continues to pick up on hail that is 1.5 inches, that is above severe criteria. The warning itself here is only for nickel size hail, but obviously we're seeing hail that is quite a bit larger than that at this time on both of these cells. So here's the two hail cores, right? One that's coming into Coyote Wells right now, and then another hail core to the north of Coyote Wells, north of I-8, and this one is a little bit closer to Painted Gorge Road. Again, this is a very sparsely populated area, but if you know anybody out here, obviously there's going to be some cattle out here too that are going to be impacted by this hail. And again, this hail size right now looks to be about 1 inch, so slightly smaller than the cell to the south, and then you get dropped down to the cell near Coyote Wells, coming into a little bit more of a populated area, and you find the hail here that's going to be likely up to 1 inch to 1.5 inches in diameter. And also an update now, the National Weather Service has extended the severe thunderstorm warning. This is no surprise until 5:30 because it is now 5 o'clock on the dot. You're watching the stream of Chad Crilly Weather Live as we track severe weather across Southern California. And so once again, we do have these two storms that are severe warned at this point. Really impressive, very intense thunderstorms, very severe thunderstorms that are moving through Coyote Wells at cell number 1, and then kind of another little cell to the north side of Coyote Wells as well. That severe thunderstorm warning here in Imperial County extended until 5:30. And so I want to grab the latest information. Weather Service still saying well, a couple of things. Now they're saying the storm is moving northeast at 25 miles per hour. They're still going with 60 mile per hour wind gusts. They have not upped the size on the hail yet, but we know that we're getting hail at least on the southern cell and maybe now the northern cell as well, up to 1.5 inches in diameter. So severe hail, also severe winds. It's been a second since we've checked velocity and tried to plot out some of these winds on here. And you can see by looking at velocity, and remember, velocity shows us, number one, which direction the winds are blowing, and then also how strong they are. And I would likely find some estimates. Remember that the radar is kind of shooting up from a beam, so it's not necessarily, even our radar site out in Yuma is shooting up from a beam, and so it's not necessarily seeing what's going on right down here at the surface. But again, even a few hundred feet up, getting some winds in the range of 25, 30 miles per hour down at the surface, those winds are probably a little bit closer to 55 to 60 miles per hour. Boy, is Coyote Wells getting into it right now. Evans Highway Road, Ocotillo, Coyote Wells, Clark Lane, Frontage Road, south of I-8, is just getting hammered right now with extremely heavy amounts of rain. Also, the hail core is coming through Coyote Wells as well at this time, and we know that we're seeing hail at least to an inch, if not a little bit bigger, in Coyote Wells at this time. And then look at the other area of reflectivity up to the north here, and this one too that we've been talking about has kind of pulsed up. This is running west on Painted Gorge Road. You're seeing some of the darker magenta, almost black colors indicating that there's definitely some hail in there. So let's track this now that it's kind of picked up speed a little bit off to the west at about 25 miles per hour according to the National Weather Service. So we'll do a squall track on this and we'll take it out some time. So there it goes at about 25. We'll give you even a little extra lead time here on this. And unfortunately with our tracker, it doesn't do the best job on picking up on some of these smaller towns. But what I can tell you is if you live in Live Oak Springs, Mortira Palms, even as far west as Boulder Oaks, I would be prepared for definitely heavy rain, the possibility of frequent lightning, some gusty winds, and maybe a little bit of hail. Look at the evolution of this cell here over the past 15 minutes. At one point we had two cells. I was kind of referring to it as a cell north of I-8 and then the cell south of I-8. And now, within the past 10 minutes, these are all kind of conglomerated into one strong and severe thunderstorm that is moving out of Imperial County soon and is about to move into eastern San Diego County. So I would say Mortira Palms and Boulder Park, as far west as Calexico Lodge, Jacumba, I'd be prepared for some heavy rain, maybe the possibility of hail if this holds itself together. It definitely is still looking like a strong storm. This storm has behaved a little bit differently than some of the other storms that we've seen thus far today. And what I mean by that is the storms that we've seen thus far today, mainly over the San Diego County mountains, have pulsed up. They stayed strong, likely for about 20, 25 minutes. We'd get the occasional severe thunderstorm warning, and then they would kind of pulse down and fall apart. This storm's a little different right now out here in western Imperial County. It continues to get stronger and maintain its strength, possibly because of the convective temperatures out there, which of course are running in the triple digits. Look at how much lightning that this cluster of severe storms is putting down. I'll turn on, again, the lightning strikes here. You're seeing 74 strikes within the past 15 minutes. And I would say within this cluster of cells, because now we are referring to it less than two cells, but more of a cluster since they've kind of conjoined, the part of this complex or this cluster that is exhibiting more lightning and is a little bit stronger is up here where you're seeing all the lightning flashes, also some of the darker reflectivity colors in there as well. And more than likely some of the hail that's coming down too. So putting this back into animation mode, again, it's moving west slowly, although it has picked up speed. It went from 10 miles per hour up to about 25 miles per hour, moving westward. And we can estimate that it'll be in Mesquite Oasis, Palm Grove within the next 30 to 45 minutes. As this storm kind of heads this way into the general vicinity of eastern San Diego County. Another very strong storm that we're tracking at the moment is this one south of Julian. This is actually very close to Mount Laguna. It's on the north side of Mount Laguna. It has really intensified in the past 15 minutes or so. You're seeing it as a compact storm. It obviously has some of those darker reflectivity values to it. That indicates to me there's probably some hail coming down in there and some gusty winds. Our Barron button can confirm that. This threat detector tool that I like to use will plot on this Mount Laguna storm, the storm that's north of Mount Laguna by about, we can measure this for you. This storm is north of Mount Laguna by around 4 miles or so. It's moving away from Mount Laguna, but if you live in Mount Laguna and you're looking up towards the north, you're definitely seeing this cell. And as we go ahead and plot the potential hail sizes on here, we are now getting an indication from our radar that this storm north of Mount Laguna could be producing hail upwards of 1.5 inches, so 1.5 inches, which is above severe criteria. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a severe thunderstorm warning come out on this cell, which right now is over Great Southern Overland Stage route. That's where the hail core continues to fall. In terms of the movement of this particular cell, it is nearly stationary, I would say. And when these storms end up being stationary like this, what kind of ends up happening is what we've seen today with the storms over the San Diego County mountains, which is they pulse up and then they kind of pulse down pretty quickly. That's been the behavior of the storms over the San Diego and Riverside County mountains. A little bit different of a scenario out in Imperial County. That storm is stronger than any of the storms that we've seen so far today. It's also lasting quite a bit longer than the storms that we've seen today. But I just want to keep you up to date on this storm that is north of Mount Laguna right now, that is producing hail up to 1 inch, if not larger, right in there. And this is southeast of Julian and just north of Mount Laguna. Some high terrain there. It is definitely producing heavy amounts of rain and also the possibility of some hail. Back down to our complex of severe storms in Imperial County. Obviously, it is now the north end of this cluster of severe storms. It's the north end up here that is a little bit stronger, that we have the stronger hail core coming through. It doesn't mean that Coyote Wells hasn't seen some active weather. In fact, Coyote Wells, you had a hail core run right through town probably about 5 minutes ago. That has since kind of come to an end. The worst of the weather has now passed to the west of Coyote Wells. So if you're in Coyote Wells, we can give you the all clear from the threat of this particular severe thunderstorm. But on the northern edge of this storm, again, it is very sparsely populated, but Painted Gorge Road, traveling along Painted Gorge Road, and then as you get into far eastern San Diego County, here is Sweeney Pass Road and Imperial Highway. North of Sweeney Pass Road and north of Imperial Highway is where we're finding, again, the strongest part of this complex of storms, which is right now in Imperial County, about to move into eastern San Diego County. You see how high the reflectivity values are, or the rain is here on the radar, and so that kind of is a signal to me that not only have we been dealing with, yes, the wind, the rain, the hail, but also some high rainfall rates. And so I want to take you over to Doppler radar estimated rainfall here over the past, this is going to be the past hour or so. And I've been telling you here for a little bit, the storm north of Coyote Wells, north of Ocotillo in Imperial County has been the stronger one. So let's plot on some of the rainfall estimates here. And you can see upwards of 1 inch. In some cases, 1.3 inches of rain has fallen within that cell. And again, this is a part of Imperial County and a part of the desert Southwest and SoCal that floods very easily. It's why we're in that marginal risk for flooding today, or risk level 1 out of 4 for flooding. But look at how much lightning is coming down with this storm. I mean, you get into it, we're talking about 57 strikes. So this is an electric storm. Mesquite Oasis, you're looking east, you're probably seeing a ton of lightning Very dark skies. I would say move inside now. Within the next 30 to 35 minutes, you're going to have a very strong storm that'll be bearing down on you in Mesquite Oasis. And then again, we're also watching our storm out near Mount Laguna and north of Mount Laguna that is producing heavy rain and the possibility of some hail that could be touching that 1 inch mark, if not a little bit larger than that. So we'll see what the National Weather Service in San Diego opts to do. For now, the National Weather Service in Phoenix continues their severe thunderstorm warning until 5:30, obviously for the complex of very strong and at times severe storms that are moving west now at about 25 miles per hour. So you can see how those storms kind of congealed and combined and are now moving west at 25 miles per hour. So Mesquite Oasis, now's the time to maybe move the car inside, start thinking about if you have dinner plans, postponing them until this storm moves past you and moves out of town. I wouldn't be surprised if the National Weather Service, so here's a little fact for you. Imperial County is covered by the National Weather Service in Phoenix. Now San Diego County is covered by the National Weather Service in San Diego. So what's happening here is there's some internal dialogue going on between the National Weather Service in Phoenix and the National Weather Service in San Diego as to what they're going to do and how they're going to handle this severe thunderstorm warning. If they're going to allow the warning to expire, or if they're going to choose to extend, if the Weather Service in San Diego is going to choose to extend this warning into eastern San Diego County. My bet would be we get a new severe thunderstorm warning coming out here for eastern San Diego County here in the next little bit. So again, very strong storm, electric storm. We've seen some lightning, plenty of lightning, 63 strikes here in the last 45 minutes. And now you can see the rain is beginning to make it into Mesquite Oasis here. And you're hearing the thunder, you're looking off to the east, you're seeing the darkening skies. And the storm is knocking on your doorstep for sure. Let's check on winds again for a second, because we haven't done that in just a little bit. And again, I want to plot some of these winds out for you. And this is just a general estimate, because remember, the radar beam out in Yuma's pretty far away from western Imperial County. Now luckily we don't have any mountains that the radar has to look through. We don't have to change the tilt or anything like that. But Yuma, as you think about a radar site shooting out towards western Imperial County, as you continue to increase with distance, that radar beam height is getting higher and higher and higher. So the winds that we're seeing right now are not necessarily what's happening down at the surface. So this is just an estimate. But again, there are definitely some winds here above the surface, 37, 40 miles per hour, which would lead me to believe that a little closer down to the surface, there could be some gusts up to 60 miles per hour. And man, that is a mean-looking hail core right in here with this cell in western Imperial County. This is north of Imperial Highway. This is now east of Painted Grove Road. And those darker colors that you're seeing, almost the black colors that you're seeing, when we start to see that on our radar, that indicates that there is definitely some hail that is ongoing here. And so we'll kind of turn back on our threat detector and plot out the hail size on this. And you can see, yeah, still getting hail up to about 1.5 inches, which is pretty severe hail on this particular part of the storm. Also, some small hail is now falling north of Sweeney Road and east of Mesquite Oasis. Hail size on this is going to be a little bit smaller. This is about 1/2 inch, so that's not quite severe, which again leads me to wonder what the National Weather Service in San Diego is going to do, if they're going to issue a severe thunderstorm warning on this for eastern San Diego County, or if they're going to leave it alone. That sort of remains to be seen. I think we're going to at some point have to start talking about a hydrological issue here with just how much heavy rainfall is coming down with this cell in western Imperial County. This is torrential, it's blinding rain, and then there's pockets of inch to inch and a half hail and wind gusts to 60 miles per hour, which you can bet is definitely blowing some of the dust around there, even south of the cell along the 8, traveling east near Coyote Wells, near Boulder Park. There's probably some dust that continues to be blown around a little bit in there as well. Let's look at the hail swath on this if we can for a second. And what the hail swath does is it's just another tool to show us, and this tool comes from the NextRad site in Yuma. It's just another way to look at where the hail has been and where it currently is falling, and it's kind of right on path with our threat detector, which I think does a much better job, but still, this is looking from Yuma's radar site, and yeah, absolutely, you can see that there is some pockets of hail. This kind of measures it on a, not necessarily a size, but a possible, probable, and likely. And you can see some of these darker colors in here indicating, yeah, that there is hail likely. We know that. That's coming down with this cell. Now, I will say it kind of continues to expand a little bit, so it's not quite as compact. And so sometimes when these cells expand a little bit more, they will sort of become more rain makers than hail makers and wind makers. We'll see what happens, but for right now, hail threat still very much present. That is, got to get my glasses on. That is south of Old Overland State Route, and then again north of Imperial Highway is where we're finding the hail core at the moment with this particular cell. Again, severe thunderstorm warning until 5:30 for far western Imperial County. The good news is Coyote Wells has been cleared out of the severe thunderstorm warning. You can see the polygon that remains there is for far western Imperial County. I want to go back over as we continue to bounce back and forth between storms and show you the very electric storms that are ongoing here north of Mount Laguna. I really think we're getting some pretty good size hail on this storm. As we kind of look at the range, this is approximately 2 to 3 miles north of Mount Laguna, and this cell is nearly stationary, right? Maybe drifting south or so at about 5 miles per hour. It doesn't have a ton of lightning on it. It is electric. This is in San Diego County. We're looking at this cell north of Mount Laguna. No special weather statement, no severe thunderstorm warning, but when you see colors like this, when you see the black that's showing up here on the radar, that indicates to me that there is almost certainly some large hail that is falling north of Sunrise Highway here, and also north of Mount Laguna. So let's go back over to our threat detector and try to plot out how big the hail actually is right now north of Sunrise Highway. Hail size on this, I would bet, is about half of it. Oh, no, it's bigger than that. It's 1.5 inches with this. So looks like there could be hail that is above severe size falling north of Mount Laguna. Here is, again, Great Southern Overland Stage Route, and the hail core itself is south of there. And remember, this cell is drifting extremely slowly at 1 to 2 miles per hour to the south at the moment. So this is one to watch. There's also another little hail core out here that is kind of southeast of Scissors Crossing. Hail size on that looks to be roughly about 1 inch or so. So we're getting pretty close to probably severe criteria with this cell southeast of Julian. Obviously, National Weather Service knows best. If they find it necessary, they will issue a severe thunderstorm warning on it, but I can tell you that most certainly there is some hail falling in that cell north of Mount Laguna. As far as our severe thunderstorm warning out here in Imperial County, set to expire in less than 10 minutes. Obviously, that will expire on time. What I'm wondering is the Weather Service in San Diego going to issue a new severe thunderstorm warning that would look something like that, as this cell now kind of drifts into extreme eastern San Diego County? I was telling you Mesquite Oasis was one spot we wanted to watch out for the threat of heavy rain and the possibility, of course, of some small hail coming into this area and gusty winds. This storm that is moving out of far western Imperial County and into San Diego County, eastern San Diego County, has been moving a little faster at about 20 to 25 miles per hour. So Mesquite Oasis, the rain is now knocking on your doorstep. As you look north and east, you're seeing a lot of lightning flashes, also some heavy amounts of rain. The sky is dark. Hail core may be picking up on this a little bit as well. Pardon me. But Mesquite Oasis, if you know anybody in that area, if you're in that vicinity or just north or south of there, here's, excuse me, here's Arroyo Tapatio Road or Highway, and this is a spot that's getting some heavy rain at the moment. Arroyo Tapatio Road and Highway, also getting up into here's Arroyo Seco del Diablo Road in eastern San Diego County, that is getting inundated with heavy amounts of rain and likely some small hail in there too. And so, again, curious to see what's going to happen in terms of whether or not the National Weather Service in San Diego is going to reissue or just newly issue a severe thunderstorm warning for extreme eastern San Diego County, and what's going to happen with these cells out near Mount Laguna and to the north of Mount Laguna. The cells north of Mount Laguna, you know, these two kind of near Scissors Crossing, and then again just north of Mount Laguna. As we get towards excuse me, 5:30, 6 o'clock, we're going to lose some daytime heating. So these may kind of fall apart, and that is also part of the reason why the National Weather Service may be a little reluctant to issue any kind of severe thunderstorm warning on this. But again, we're now almost 5 minutes away from the severe thunderstorm warning in western Imperial County expiring at 5:30. I would say the worst of the weather is now moving into eastern San Diego County. So Mesquite Oasis, Sweeney Road there, east of Mesquite Oasis, is seeing heavy rain. I don't think that this is necessarily severe at this point, all of this stuff. It is not severe, but there is going to be some pockets of gusty winds, heavy rain, and maybe some penny-sized hail as it approaches Mesquite Oasis. But yeah, it's a busy look on radar this afternoon across San Diego County and Imperial County, with numerous strong and even severe thunderstorms throughout this afternoon. And then also check out this. There's a cluster of showers and thunderstorms, and I'm kind of optimistic here, or hopeful, that as we change the radar site it doesn't mess up too much. But what I've done is I've changed the radar site here back over to San Diego, and you can see there are some showers and maybe even a few little embedded rumbles of thunder in here that are in Baja near Rosarito that are traveling north. This will get into TJ here eventually. You can see it's clearly weakening, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of rain showers even getting into the metro here later this evening, as this area of showers and weakening thunderstorms kind of pushes towards the north and northwest. So there it is. You know, might get a little bit of light rain in San Diego here to come a little bit later this evening with that weakening cluster and round of showers, but it should not be a huge deal for us. But any rainfall in the month of July at Lindbergh Field is rain that we will absolutely take. Okay, back over to our Yuma radar site now as we track these very strong storms moving now out of western Imperial County and getting into eastern San Diego County. Again, we have a couple of cells to the north of Mount Laguna, one east of Julian, and then our main cluster of thunderstorms here that is getting into Mesquite Oasis. Look at what's happening. You know, this is something so interesting about doing severe weather coverage, as you kind of watch things unfold in real time. So we had our compact cluster of severe storms in western Imperial. This is, by the way, that is just ink from a broken pen. We had our cluster of compact severe storms moving out of western Imperial County now into eastern San Diego County, and they're sort of starting to now merge and congeal with those at once isolated cells out near Pine Valley. And so what's going to happen here, what I think may happen, is all this activity might kind of just converge and congeal together. If that happens, we probably would lose this severe weather threat, and it would turn more into a flooding threat, if anything. But that'll be something to keep an eye on. Another exclusive tool that we have here that I have not used is something called Nowcast. And Nowcast is great because, again, nobody else in the San Diego market has this. What it does is it takes what's happening right now with the thunderstorms that we have out there, and basically this data, however it does it, it's very impressive. It takes the thunderstorms we have right now. It doesn't necessarily do like a future cast type thing. It's not a model run, but it gives us a projection of the composite and the structure of the storm, where it's going to go next, and what it might look like. So let's go ahead and put this into motion. And this goes out only about an hour or so, but this is about 6:13 or so. And you can see the storm tries to slow down a little bit. It kind of parks itself over Mosquito Oasis. So if you're in Mosquito Oasis, you could be in for kind of a bumpy ride here over the next couple of hours with the heavy rain. And then obviously we have these other cells up here near Harrison Park, north of Mount Laguna. Banner, Scissors Crossing could be in for more rainfall and thunderstorm activity here over the next couple of hours before we lose daytime heating and our threat for any rainfall comes to an end. But that's at least how our future radar, our Nowcast, is depicting how this will evolve. Okay, back over to reflectivity. Time is 5:28, and the severe thunderstorm warning in western Imperial County is set to expire at 5:30. Obviously, we still have torrential amounts of rain coming down east of Mosquito Oasis. I think the hail size has dropped down on this a little bit, and there may still be some gusty winds. We'll go back over to velocity and plot out some of these winds, and I'll give you my spiel one more time that we're looking now pretty far away from the radar site in Yuma, so not necessarily down at the surface, but at least above the surface. We're finding winds near 30 miles per hour to the north and northeast of Mosquito Oasis. So that would indicate to me closer to the surface there's probably some winds near 40 miles per hour as these cells continue to move from Imperial County, western Imperial County, into San Diego County, eastern San Diego County, at about 20 to 25 miles per hour. I'm going to try again to put a track on this whole cluster as it kind of, bumps itself together. So Julian is seeing some rain right now, but if this current cluster of storms that has moved into eastern San Diego County holds itself together, then it too would be into Julian by around 6:22 or so. That's still a ways out, and Julian, you have some more cells just to your east that you probably need to get through first. We'll wait here until 5:30 to see. Well, it is 5:30 now. What's going to happen? I don't think the National Weather Service in San Diego is going to issue a severe thunderstorm warning on all this junk out here, mainly because it is just kind of congealing together, and I think more so than anything else at this point, as we look at the real-time analysis, it's going to be a rain issue. And so look at the Doppler radar accumulated rainfall over the past 3 hours, and you can see that there has been quite a bit of rainfall. We talked about our swath of rainfall here in western Imperial County, but the cells that were near Scissors Crossings in San Diego County, just east of Scissors Crossings, put down some heavy amounts of rain. Specifically how much? 3 inches. Yeah, we've had a number of aerial flood warnings out there, which is basically a step below a flash flood warning. It means there could be some urban small stream type stuff. not really a big deal, but no flash flood warnings. But again, you can see, nonetheless, 3 inches of rain is what Doppler radar has estimated with one of the cells that popped up earlier today east of Scissor Springs. The cells here north of Mount Laguna also put down some heavy amounts of rainfall. We can query these. 1.7, almost 2 inches of rain. That is needed rain for sure. And luckily, we don't have any flash flood warnings to speak of. The time now is 5:31. And so our flash flood warning, or excuse me, our severe thunderstorm warning in western Imperial County has been allowed to expire, but we still have really very strong storms out here in eastern San Diego County, electric storms that are producing some heavy rainfall rates, likely some small hail and gusty winds, 40 to 45 miles per hour, but no formal severe thunderstorm warnings anywhere in San Diego, Imperial, or Riverside County. So that's good news, but heavy thunderstorms, heavy rain continue here across eastern San Diego County. So I would just kind of discourage traveling anywhere in this vicinity. You can see the rain is still coming down. The lightning strikes, 34 lightning strikes here in the last little bit. You know, if you do have to get out of downtown San Diego and go east tonight, I would suggest traveling along the 8, going through Alpine, and then kind of going through Boulder Park, Live Oak Springs, and then through Coyote Wells, and then wherever your travels take you elsewhere from there. That's just because, you know, if you try to take, you know, a road that goes from North County where the 15 splits in Escondido, and then you go east on, I think that's the 78, eastward through Julian, you're going to run into a lot of heavy rain and a lot of thunderstorm activity. So with that being said, no active warnings to speak of as of 5:33, just heavy amounts of rain. There are severe thunderstorm watches until midnight out through central and southern Arizona. More showers and thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms here in southern Arizona and southwestern Arizona that are headed westward. These are really interesting type. Monsoons are so unpredictable. Our monsoon moisture around here, you kind of know when storms are going to pop up, but they just behave erratically. You know, the other night we had an MCV blow through the area, small scale low pressure system with a lot of thunderstorms that went right through the metro here in San Diego. And so tonight would be one of those nights where I would just kind of keep an extra close eye on the radar. And obviously I'll have updates for you as things kind of progress along. But again, 5:34 now, no active severe thunderstorm warnings or flash flood warnings, San Diego, Imperial, or Riverside County. Just really strong storms out here in eastern San Diego County. If anything new breaks, I'll jump back on and I'll give you updates. We'll see you soon.